You found Psychotic Confessions. This is a place for the stories people don't tell in daylight, the ones that stay with you, the ones that don't have clean endings. Settle in, turn the lights down. And whatever you do, don't listen to this alone. The floorboard creaked under my foot, revealing a thin slit of darkness where it shouldn't have been. I still remember the realtor's smile, the keys jingling as she handed them over. The house was perfect, a quaint kitchen, a cozy living room. My cat, Whiskers, had even seemed to approve of his new territory, rubbing against my leg in welcome. Then I saw that crack, just a small one really, but it felt like an omen. The house has been quiet ever since that moment. It doesn't make a sound at night anymore, not the way other houses do. I've never said this out loud before, but I think about that hidden room every time the house is quiet, like it's a place that should stay buried in darkness. The house wasn't perfect by any means. The mailbox out front was dented and wouldn't close all the way. The building felt older than it should have. The neighbors were quiet, too quiet. One evening, I heard a faint sound coming from an empty room. It was a soft, scraping noise, like something being dragged across the floor. The sound repeated the next night, and this time I got up to investigate. As I walked down the stairs into the empty kitchen, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I wasn't alone. There were no mice or trash cans knocked over. Everything seemed to be exactly where it should have been. The sound always came from a room that should have been empty, yet it felt as if something was trying to get out or maybe find its way back in again. Something that couldn't be seen or heard clearly, but could only be felt in those quiet moments. I told myself it was the pipes, and I had probably just imagined it all. But still, I slept with the light on that night. That was the first one. It wasn't the last. The feeling of something being off became more frequent. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, I heard something that sent a shiver down my spine. The sensation that accompanied this sound was unnerving, a mix of dread and longing. The pattern started to emerge as I walked through my new house the next day. A soft, rhythmic tapping against the wall behind me. I froze for what felt like hours. When I finally moved, I walked towards the wall, placing my hand gently on the cold surface. I could feel a slight chill in the air, like an icy finger tracing down my spine. The next night, as I lay in bed, it seemed closer still. There was a heavy, metallic smell that hung around me, like wet coins or something sharp and cold. When I woke up the next morning, I found that one of my shoes had been moved from its usual spot by the front door to a corner of the hallway. I felt a strange tug at my senses, like something was trying to make itself known. The question lingered: what do you do when the unknown knocks on your door? The thought of what might lie beyond sent a wave of unease washing over me. I pressed my ear against the cold surface, listening intently. The idea of opening this door and letting whatever lay behind it into my life terrified me. But there was also a strange fascination with the unknown, a desire to explore what lay beneath the surface. At the bottom of the stairs, there was a room. It was small, barely more than a closet, but it held an eerie weightiness that seemed to press down on me. Each item seemed to hold a story, a piece of the house's past that begged to be told. The room was like an ancient library, filled with remnants of lives long gone. As I read through the pages, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of empathy for whoever had written these words, and a growing unease about why they were here, hidden away in this forgotten room. The door was open, I hadn't opened it. I hadn't been home. The breeze outside was cool, but the air inside felt thick and unnatural, as if the room had taken on a life of its own. I remember standing there, frozen in disbelief. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped my keys. They clattered to the floor with an echoing finality that seemed to last forever. The door was slightly ajar, just enough for me to see into the darkness beyond. As soon as I moved, everything shifted. The door creaked behind me. It hadn't been latched properly. The lock turned but didn't catch. I twisted frantically until finally it clicked into place. I couldn't move from that spot for what felt like minutes, maybe longer. The room smelled different. There was a faint scent of something musty and old, an underlying muskiness that I hadn't noticed before. I knew then, even though I didn't say it out loud, that this wasn't just some unexplained occurrence anymore. This was deliberate. Something had changed irrevocably. I stood there, hand still on the locked door, until the shaking subsided enough for me to make a phone call. The only person who came to mind was Alex. He answered after 3 rings. "Hey, what's up?" His voice was casual and light-hearted. I struggled with how to start. "Alex," my voice cracked before I could finish the sentence. "Come upstairs," I managed to say. "I need you to see something." Alex arrived right as planned, on time but oblivious to what he was walking into. As we approached the room, Alex glanced back down the hallway for an instant, as if sensing the shift in atmosphere. "I think someone's been in my apartment," I said as we stood just outside of the hidden room. Alex suggested that we call the police, but I declined. I couldn't explain why not without revealing more than I wanted anyone else knowing. He left shortly after, assuring me he would keep his phone on in case anything happened. But as soon as Alex was gone, and I stood alone once again, the weight of everything hit me like a freight train. The nights turned into long stretches of unending darkness. Sleep became an elusive stranger that refused to visit me anymore. At first, I tried counting sheep or reading books until my eyes grew heavy, but nothing worked. I started sleeping with headphones in so that if any sound woke me up, it would be muffled by the music. It didn't help. Hours spent awake turned into days of staring at the ceiling and listening to the clock ticking away each second. The weight loss became noticeable too. My clothes hung looser around my frame as I barely managed to eat anything. My eyes were perpetually bloodshot, dark circles ringing them like bruises from lack of sleep. Even work suffered. I missed appointments, forgot calls, and my boss started asking if everything was okay at home. I still can't talk about that part without feeling the same sense of dread and exhaustion. It wasn't just that something was happening in my apartment anymore. It was that something had happened to me. The last incident before confronting whatever this presence was occurred one night when I finally decided to try to sleep again. The room felt colder than usual, not just cool, but an icy chill that seeped into my bones. Then it happened, a soft whisper, almost too quiet for human ears. It was close enough to hear clearly. The voice seemed to come from right beside me, so close that I could feel its breath on my skin. I froze, every muscle tensed and ready to flee. The room was silent again after the words had been spoken, but the presence remained, an almost tangible weight pressing down around me. It was getting closer, invading not just my space, but my very being. I knew I wasn't going to survive another week like that. One way or another, it was going to end. It was November 12th, and I remember because it was the night before my birthday. The air was cold, and the rain had just started to fall. I'd spent the evening watching old movies, trying to distract myself from the growing dread that filled the house. But tonight felt different. The usual creaks and groans were more pronounced, almost like the house itself was warning me. The first sign came as I was locking up for the night. I reached for the door handle and felt a cold breeze sweep through my legs. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and took a long drink. The sound of the clock ticking in the hallway echoed through the quiet house. A strange sensation washed over me. It felt like time had slowed down, or maybe it was my senses heightening. Every second seemed to stretch out infinitely. It happened when I reached for the light switch by the bedroom door. My fingers brushed against something unseen, and a chill ran up my spine. I froze. Every muscle in my body tensed as the room darkened around me. The air grew colder, and I could feel it seeping into my bones. I took a step back, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it echoing through the empty house. That's when I knew tonight was the night it was going to happen. The light flickered once more before dying completely, leaving me standing in pitch-black darkness. My body felt heavy with dread as I slowly moved towards the bedroom, my feet dragging against the floorboards. The faint glow from outside filtered through the curtains, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Every sound was amplified, the ticking clock, the distant hum of a car engine, the rustling of leaves. I stood there for what felt like hours, trying to catch my breath and process what had just happened. My body ached with tension, every muscle tight and sore. The cold air seemed to seep deeper into my bones, making me shiver uncontrollably. I tried to speak out loud, but found myself unable to form any coherent words. I stumbled back towards the hallway, guided by instinct rather than thought. Each step felt like a struggle against unseen forces, trying to keep me in that room forever. My mind was racing, thoughts swirling around in a chaotic mess as I made my way down the stairs and out into the night. The rain poured down on me, soaking through my clothes within seconds, but I didn't care. I had to get away from this house, from whatever was inside it. I drove for hours, aimlessly wandering through empty streets until dawn broke over the horizon. When the first light of day filtered through the windows of my car, I found myself parked outside a motel on the outskirts of town. I still can't explain what happened next. The days blurred into weeks as I tried to piece together the fragments of that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those glowing embers staring back at me from the darkness. I never went back to that house again. The thought of stepping foot inside it made my skin crawl with revulsion. I moved out of town completely, leaving behind everything I couldn't pack in a single trunk. When people asked where I was going or why I left so abruptly, all I could say was, I had to go. The days blurred into weeks as I tried to piece together the fragments of that night. There were things I found later, small details that confirmed it wasn't imagined. A photograph of myself hidden under a floorboard in the old bedroom, the edges torn and frayed like it had been handled countless times before. The picture was taken years ago during a family vacation, a memory I hadn't thought about for ages. But now there were scratches marring the surface, dark smudges that seemed to have been drawn over my face with some kind of oily substance. The sight sent shivers down my spine. Another thing I found was a note written in what appeared to be blood. It read, "You never should have moved into this house." The words were scrawled on a piece of yellowed paper, stained and faded like it had been hidden away for years. I didn't recognize the handwriting, but somehow I knew who wrote it. As time passed, I tried to rebuild my life without ever mentioning what happened that night in November. But some things don't fade easily. They linger on, haunting you even when you think you've moved past them. My relationship with reality shifted irrevocably. Everything felt different now. Even simple tasks like locking doors or checking windows became rituals of survival. The friendships I had forged over the years began to crumble under the weight of my experiences. One by one, people drifted away until only a few remained. Those who believed me without question and those who offered support despite their doubts. There are things that changed about me because of that night and all those nights to follow. Sometimes I wonder if anyone can really know another person when there's such an abyss inside us. People ask how it affected my sleep, but no one ever asks about the quiet moments before dawn or what it does to you, being alone with your thoughts in a house you're supposed to feel safe in. It changed me, obviously. I find myself avoiding certain rooms, avoiding mirrors at night when shadows stretch too long across the floor. I've given up on sleeping with windows open. It's something that was once soothing, but has become unsettling now. Yet I hold onto my love for stories, even if they're sometimes too close to home. It's not a secret that I'm not okay, and I won't pretend otherwise. The truth is, there are parts of the story that I haven't told anyone, some details I may never tell. I'm telling it now because there's something about finally saying it out loud, like it's an exorcism of sorts, but even after I speak the words, they still linger. And so every night when I close my eyes at that 3:15 a.m. hour, it feels like something is listening, even if there's no sound. It's a strange sensation, this constant companion of being on guard. Like living in a house where the walls are just a little too thin. You can't see through them, but you know someone might be listening on the other side. It's exhausting because it means never truly relaxing, even when you're alone. This feeling has become such an ingrained part of my routine that even simple tasks like making coffee in the morning or taking a shower at night have taken on a new dimension. They've become moments where I am not just performing these actions, but also monitoring myself, ensuring every movement is ordinary and safe. What does it mean to live with this kind of vigilance? How do we define normalcy when our own perception of safety has shifted so drastically? That's all for tonight. If this story stayed with you, good. That means it worked. If you have your own confession, something you've never said out loud, something that still doesn't make sense, you know where to find us. Drop it below. And if you're not already here, subscribe. There are more stories where this one came from. Psychotic Confessions will be in the dark.